Welcome, friends. This is Mike Williams. I recently had the pleasure of joining Sam from the YouTube channel You Don't Fool Me Twice Productions. Our conversation was wide-ranging as we start with the Beatle conspiracy and then make our way down the rabbit hole of reality. Thanks for listening.
Mike, it is really an honor and a thrill to have you. I don't really know how to express it. I'm a big fan from a long time ago, and I have followed your work. So it is really an honor to have you. Welcome aboard, Mike.
Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mike. There is your work, especially around the Beatles conspiracy, is something who is pretty new for many in the truth community. And regarding me, it's like the flat Earth who is a tool or a proof that something is wrong. The PID is more than just Beatles, I believe. So, Mike, can you just take us through just in the beginning what happened 9/11, 1969, I believe, and what is this Beatles conspiracy people talks about, and why is it about Paul? Is it about Lennon? Can you just give us a general picture before I throw my question on you?
Well, I'll start this way, Sam. It's a conspiracy that has been around a long time. So the conspiracy started actually in 1966. It picked up a head of steam in 1969. And the conspiracy basically goes this way, that biological Paul McCartney, the original Paul McCartney, he died in 1966. And based upon the book that I use as a foundation for my research, The Memoirs of Billy Shears, that book is allegedly the memoirs of the person that is playing the part and has been playing the part of Paul McCartney since 1966. And his name is William Shepard. He uses the name Shepard as his surname or his last name in the Memoirs of Billy Shears. I refer to him as Billy Shears. That's really his alias. And most people who know the Beatles know that he was introduced on the Sgt. Pepper album with the song With a Little Help from My Friends. So the Memoirs of Billy Shears is just one of the sources that I use. And as I've mentioned many times on other shows, I use the book as a starting point. And I do not use the book and take it at face value. What I've done over the last 3 years is to actually dissect the book and then go off and do independent research along with a very small team of folks that I work with. We're a loose group of researchers who have also read the book, and we have gone off to validate or to debunk narratives in the book to see which part of the book is true and which part of the book is fictional. Now, the book, by its own admission, The Memoirs of Billy Shears, this is the second edition that's out now. It came out in September of last year of 2018. The first edition came out September 9th of 2009. By its own admission, it tells the reader up front that it is classified as historical fiction. Now, the reason why that was done was because, and this is also explained in the book, the author or the encoder is Thomas U. Harriot. Tom is the person that is telling Billy's story. The reason why it's historical fiction is because Billy or William has signed confidentiality agreements, non-disclosure agreements. Some people might refer to them as secrecy agreements. And he has to be very careful about how he tells the story so he's not in breach of contract. Because if he breaches those contracts and those agreements, there could be big-time legal issues and or financial problems that will ensue. So Billy or William received the green light by those that he reports to begin the process of disclosure about who he is and what the Beatles were, and that disclosure started in 2009 with the release of the first version, the first edition of the Memoirs of Billy Shears, the red-covered book, back in September of 2009. And again, the blue-covered book, which contains a lot more information, was released 9 years later, September 9th, 2018. That's really how I got started with it as far as the research, Sam. I knew about the conspiracy going back to when I was a teenager. And when I was in high school, I actually brought in the older brother of a friend of mine to present the clues that were on the various albums and so on. So I was aware of the conspiracy, but I didn't take it seriously. I always thought that it was a marketing ploy to sell more records. And in fact, when the Beatles really started coming out with the clues in 1969, that's when it really picked up and started to get traction. Beatles record sales did increase. So a lot of people, including myself, like I said, chalked it up as a good marketing ploy to get the Beatles back on the radar.
Just interrupt you 2 seconds. So the spine of this conspiracy is that somewhere in the mid of 60s, I don't exactly remember which year, but 9/11, the real Paul McCartney, have an accident and gets killed. But what they say is that he's still alive and is very much alive. And but this Billy Shear is the one who have played his role, and he have released 3 books. Am I right from until here?
Yes, yeah. So what happened was biological Paul McCartney, according to the memoirs of Billy Shears, died in a car crash on September 11th, 1966. Now, some people want to debate the date. Some people who are in the community will say that it was in August of 66. Others will say it was November 9th of 1966. But in memoirs, Billy tells us very clearly that the date is September 11th, 1966. Now, the reason why I believe it is September 11th, 1966 is because in the occult circles,
yes,
9/11 is a very, very important date. And many, many events, prominent events over the history of time have taken place on September 11th, whether it be 1966 or if we go back to 9/11, 2001, when we had the World Trade Centers, the Pentagon, and Building 7, all of that stuff take place here in the United States. But there are many, 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 many more events over the history of time where 9/11 was used as a key date in which something took place historically.
When I listen to your videos, you talk about that that you can study the book in 3 layers.
Right.
I really don't get it. Is it the 3 edition you talk about, or is the book written in 3 different ways that you can study it?
Okay, that's a good question. All right, so the book, there's 2 books. There's the first edition, which was released in September of 2009. That has a red cover. The second edition, which is the most current version of the book, was released last year, September of 2018. Now, the book is encoded. So what that means is it has 3 layers to it. That's why Tom Harriet, I refer to him as the author for simplicity's sake. But in the book, Tom tells us and Billy tells us that he is what is referred to as the encoder. So what that means is that Billy, memoirs is Billy's autobiography. And in order for Billy to tell the story, he had Tom, who was trained in encoding, to encode the book. So there's 3 layers to it. The first layer, Sam, is reading the book the way you would read any other book. Just read it, at face value.
Yep.
The second layer is on every single page of the book, there are bolded letters. So when you read the bolded letters on each page, it tells you a little bit more about what's going on and what happened with the McCartney conspiracy. The third layer is called the acrostical code. Now, this is more complicated. So the way the acrostical code works is the first letter of every odd sentence. When you stitch those letters together, you start to get sentences. And that takes you even deeper. Okay, so now what Tom has done is that could be very cumbersome to break the acrostical code down. I know folks, friends who have done it, but Tom does sell the acrostical code in a little booklet, little pamphlet. It's not very much money, but this way you can just get the acrostical code without having to sit there and break it down through 666 pages of the book. So the first layer, read the book the way you would read any book. Second layer is the bolded words on each page, and the third layer is the acrostical code. When you bring all of those layers together, that's how you get the most thorough understanding of what the Memoirs of Billy Shears is telling us.
Okay, that's a 3-layer. And that 3-layer is the same in the both books, Mike?
Yes, both books are coded the same way. Yeah.
One question. The person Billy Shears, is he mentioned in the book at all? A person like, I mean, I don't know if you get my question, but is he a person with name Billy Shears? Have he ever existed? Is there any record that Billy Shears have existed, and or is it a fictive name from the book? Or I just don't get where, because when you guys discovered that, for just example now, that Paul was replaced, where did the name Billy Shears, this person, have your researchers showed who he have been before he was transferred to be Paul?
Okay, so that's a very good question. So let me see if I can break it down, Sam, so it makes sense. So I get asked a lot of times, they'll say, well, where are the records for William Shepard or Billy Shepard? Because he's giving us the last name of Shepard in the book, The Memoirs of Billy Shears. Shears is an alias that he uses. So the way he's positioning the name Shears, Shepard, Shears, it's kind of like a play on words, a play on names. So what we have to understand is, and this is going to get very, very involved, I think, so I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible. Billy, his bloodlines go all the way back. He has blue blood, right? He has elite ruling class bloodlines. And his bloodline, according to the book, goes back to William Wallace of Scottish fame, right? He was the freedom fighter, the warrior that was depicted by Mel Gibson in the movie Braveheart. So Billy tells us his lineage, his ancestry goes back to William Wallace. So what that says is that he has elite blue blood. Now, Billy also drops a lot of clues in the revised version of Memoirs, the blue-covered book, which came out in September of 2018, that is pointing him back to Aleister Crowley.
Aha, okay. Okay, that he's related to him?
Yes. So there's one or two things that's going on there. Either he is related to him, in other words, Crowley, or some people might pronounce it as Crowley. I use Crowley. Crowley is either a relative, like an uncle, or Crowley is his father. Okay, and I know it's difficult for people to get their heads wrapped around this.
Yeah. So Aleister Crowley could be the father of the fake Paul.
Yes.
Billy Shears.
Of Billy Shears, right. So in the Blue Book, as I mentioned, he drops a lot of clues that for sure link him to Aleister Crowley. One way or another, he has a hard-coded link back to Crowley. And as I said, whether Crowley is a relative, like an uncle, or is his father, that's something that we're still trying to figure out. But it's very possible that Aleister Crowley was his father. Now, people have asked me, well, Mike, how come, he's not listed as one of Crowley's children? So if you go onto Wikipedia and you type in Aleister Crowley, I think 4 of Crowley's children show up. What we have to understand about Crowley is he was heavily into sex magic.
Yes.
And because of his sex magic, there's no telling how many offspring, illegitimate offspring, he has out there. And it's very possible that Billy was one of those children. He was the result of one of Crowley's sex magic rituals.
Yes. Besides, they have so much power that they can hide it. I mean, they can hide the fact that he's a child of him.
We have to understand that Crowley was very, and still is, very significant with regard to the controlling apparatus, Sam. See, some people think that Crowley was basically a carnival barker, he didn't have much importance at all, and the people who believe that are wrong. Many in the Illuminati subscribe to Crowley. They subscribe to his religion of Thelema, which is Luciferianism / Satanism. And in memoirs, Billy tells us, he gives us a little story, and he says that he talks about 9/11, 2001, when the buildings came down in New York City. And he says in the book that he was very disappointed that his family was involved in the planning of 9/11. Now, who is he talking about? He's talking about Barbara Bush. It's been a long time conspiracy that Barbara Bush is also an offspring of Aleister Crowley's. So he was stitching together the fact that he has bloodline relationship with Barbara Bush. Now, could it be that they are brother and sister? If Aleister Crowley he fathered both of them? Absolutely. That's how it would work, right? It would be a brother and sister relationship.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes. Siblings, yes.
Siblings, right. And if it wasn't, in other words, where maybe Crowley was the father of Barbara Bush, but he is the uncle of Billy, there's still a family relationship, a family tie.
Exactly.
But the thing is, what I try to get across to folks, Sam, is that the most important takeaway, because we have not nailed down whether Crowley is his father, is that it certainly appears that he is definitely related to Aleister Crowley from a bloodline perspective. So what that means is that Billy is very much embedded in what I refer to as the pyramid of power. Some people might refer to it as the controllers. They might refer to them as the elite, the Illuminati, yes. Whatever label they want to give them. I call it the pyramid of power because within the pyramid of power, there are many levels and degrees of controlling mechanisms.
Yes.
That are contained within it.
Yep.
So for the controllers to be able to hide Billy's information, it's very easy. People say, well, how come we can't find any death certificate for biological Paul McCartney, and how come we can't find a birth certificate for William Shepard? I said, look, you're looking at this and thinking that the rules, the laws, the procedures that apply to the average person, those of us that live outside the pyramid,
yes,
are the same rules that apply within the pyramid.
Exactly.
So if we have organizations, the intelligence organizations like the NSA, the CIA, MI6, you've got Tavistock, you've got the Committee of 300, they can hide whatever they want, Sam.
Yes, I believe that they got enough power, and they have already shown it. If they want to go into Iraq and bomb them, they lie about and show even physical pictures and lie about it. So
yes,
I just want to say to my audience that you have to have that in mind, that we are rolled by a crazy system and a really evil system. And my next question to you is, when I listen to you explain this very beautifully, this pyramid, the people inside and people outside, and that it is a multi-pyramid that, for example, those say, for example, that we have Rockefeller and JP Morgans and Wahlbergs at the top of the pyramid, but still they are at the bottom of the next pyramid. What is you talk about Tavistock also? What is Tavistock?
Okay, so Tavistock, yeah. So Tavistock is out of the UK. Tavistock has been around a long time. The original formation of it was in the early 1900s. I think it was around 1911 or so. And then in 1947, it became the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, if I'm not mistaken. So Tavistock is in the business of human psychology, and it's in the business of social engineering and mind control. That's really what it's in the business of doing. Now, if you go to their website, it's going to say a whole bunch of really nice things about what it does for the world and for humanity. But when you dig into where their tentacles go and what they're involved in, they do mind control and social engineering. And that's an oversimplified explanation of it, but at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. Tavistock wanted to change the landscape in the early 1960s, starting in the early 1960s, to change Western culture, to break down, I should say, the traditional values, the more conservative values that society had at the time. And that included the music. And Tavistock gets its marching orders from the Committee of 300. So think of the Committee of 300, and this is explained in Dr. John Coleman's book, and I believe the first edition of Dr. Coleman's book came out in 1992. But think of the Committee of 300 as really the operational arm within the pyramid of power. So that's where strategies are put into play and they're made operational. In other words, they have a plan and then they say, okay, this is the plan. Now let's go make it happen. So the Committee of 300, they flow that work out to various organizations and entities within the pyramid underneath the Committee of 300 to put those initiatives or those projects into play so that they can do their social engineering and steering of human consciousness. So the Committee of 300 would say, okay, Tavistock, we need you to put projects into play that are going to turn the traditional system on its head and break it down. So one of the major mechanisms that Tavistock uses, Sam, in order to break society down and to change ideals and to change beliefs and to make people think differently is the music and entertainment business.
Yep.
So in 1962, according to the memoirs of Billy Shears, the Illuminati declared war on Christianity. And if we go back in time and we can take a look at what has happened since 1962 to current day, we can definitely see that there has been a total attack, full frontal attack on Christianity. I will also say that we can also see that with Islam.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a breakdown really of the Abrahamic religions. And I will even argue that to some degree they're doing that to Judaism also. And some people might disagree with that because they'll say that, the Zionists are controlling much of what goes on operationally, outside the pyramid. But here's the thing. We have to distinguish between Judaism and the Talmud.
Yep.
So we really have to make that distinction. And we won't get into that in this discussion. I mean, I could do a whole hour on that.
Catholicism is not Christianity, and the same Zionism and the pedophiles, psychopath pedophiles steering this world, Zionism are not Judaism. We need to discuss in this too. That
yes, Zionism is a political ideology. It's fascism. That's what it is.
Yes.
It cloaks itself in religion. It cloaks itself under the umbrella of Judaism. There are many Jews that understand this and want nothing to do with Zionism.
Exactly. My best friend is a Jew, and he's against all this agenda. He's against the Palestinian occupation. He's against all of this. So he have nothing to do, and he's a Khazarian Jew. So like Catholicism is not Christianity. It's an evil something evil in Italy, in Rome. The same with Zionism. It's not Judaism.
Right. And it's very important to make that distinction because the Zionists want nothing more than for people to lump it in, and then they can call you an anti-Semite and, and all that stuff, right?
Yep. Yep.
So in any case, so the Illuminati, their goal is to implement the Luciferian age. The Luciferian age coincides with the age of Aquarius. And in order for them to do this, they have to shut down and close down the Piscean age, the age of Pisces.
Mm-hmm. Do you mean we're leaving a era of deception, or are we going into an era of deception?
Well, that's the question, right? So, because when people hear Luciferianism, their initial inclination is to say it's evil, it's Satanism, and nothing good is going to come from it.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been looking more and more, studying Luciferianism and trying to understand it some more.
Yeah.
Because we've all have been conditioned to believe that it is dark, evil, bad stuff. Now, could it be? It could be. I'm not saying it's not. I'm trying to make my way through the woods also on this thing because we know that the Piscean age was not a lot of fun. And we're all hoping that as we move into the age of Aquarius, that things are going to get a little better, a little easier. The world will be a better place. Everybody will play nicer together. And the reason why I'm explaining this, folks, is because I'm just trying to explain how the Luciferians look at this. I'm not, again, that's all I'm doing is giving you my view on my findings from my research. All I'm doing is just trying to explain it.
Yeah, yeah.
So Luciferianism can be equated to the cult of Dionysus, the god of wine, revelry. If it feels good, do it. Anything goes. It's like the Nike.
Yeah, just do.
Just do it, right? So just do it goes back to Aleister Crowley. Do as thou wilt.
Exactly. Do as wilt, yeah.
Yep. Is it a good thing to move in that direction? The problem that I see is that a lot of people have no boundaries, Sam. If somebody told you and I, you have free reign to go do whatever it is you want to go do, you and I wouldn't hurt anybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
We would do no harm. But the problem is that we have people out there that don't think that way. So if you give them free reign to go do whatever it is they want to go do, there's a good portion of the population that are going to go off and go do things that are going to be harmful to other people. That's the problem I see with the bringing in of this new age. So the Beatles were created by Tavistock to be the cog in the wheel to start the whole process of breaking down the cultures and breaking down the societies and their traditional values, introducing rock and roll music the way the Beatles brought it in, to introduce the drug culture, to introduce free love, all of these things that were basically foreign to the population or by many societies and cultures before the Beatles came into play, the Rolling Stones, the Kinks, Led Zeppelin. We can go on and on and on and on. I mean, really, it was the British invasion. So Tavistock created the British invasion with the Beatles leading the parade to start that process. In 1967, that's referred to as the Summer of Love, and that's when we had the Monterey Pop Festival. And the Monterey Pop Festival was used to distribute LSD.
Yeah. By
the CIA, and local law enforcement was told to stand down as LSD was flowing freely at the Monterey Pop Festival. Now, Billy Shears, William Shepard, he was involved in the planning of the Monterey Pop Festival, along with John Phillips from the Mamas and the Papas. Now, this is not conspiracy. This is something that you can just go onto the internet and you can read for yourself. This is essentially common knowledge that Billy, as Paul McCartney, and John Phillips were primary players behind the Monterey Pop Festival. So, long story short is that the Beatles were used to help to turn things the way the Illuminati wanted things to go. And we can argue that it was very successful, because we've seen a lot of changes. I don't know how old you are, Sam, but
I am almost 41. I will turn 41 in December.
Okay, so I'm going to be 61 in January, and I can tell you that the amount of change that I have seen in my life, because being born and raised through the 1960s into the 1970s, then 80s, 90s, up to today, the amount of change that we have seen societally and culturally is unbelievable. The Beatles played a big, big part in that from a music perspective. And of course, Hollywood, did what it needed to do from a film perspective. So all of these pieces come together. So it's not just the Beatles by themselves. It's not just the Rolling Stones by themselves. Everything gets rolled in. It's Hollywood. It's the music industry. It is your media. It is your education systems. It's your legal systems, which have been broken down where laws don't seem to apply anymore and except to you and me. If you're somewhere higher up the ladder of Freemasonry as an example, you get a pass. Governments are all commandeered. Your military's all commandeered. Countries, as far as nationalism goes, doesn't exist. That's something that they tell the population, the public, that you have boundaries and you have nationalism and all that. But at the top, it's all international. The moral of the story, what I'm trying to say here is that the Illuminati declared war on Christianity and traditional values, and that's when they decided that it was going to be full steam ahead to change things and to bring in a very, very different age. The whole Mayan calendar thing back in December of 2012, when they were talking about end times and all that stuff, what that was the end of the Piscean age, and it was the beginning of the age of Aquarius. That's all that was. We are now 7 years into the age of Aquarius.
There is a question, Mike, I ask all my guests, and it's a kind of challenge, can be challenging your belief system. But we can see, for example, NASA, I just give some kind of examples, how they make mistakes. I don't talk about the mistakes with the moon landing but everything new. We can, for example, see how one astronaut talking about that he in space just see a black void. Another talks about that he sees stars. We have bubbles. We have an astronaut taking stuff who are invisible for us and putting them in a basket doesn't exist. We can see fake shootings on the news where a police officer exactly in front of the CNN cameras pouring blood on his colleague just to fake something. And we see them over and over again, these kind of lies. And the normal people, those I call the sleepers, they don't have the eyes to see it. We who are a little more critical have a broader eyes to see it. But my question here, Mike, is that are they really mistakes, or are they doing those purposely? I mean, a powerful system or a powerful agency like NASA who takes 50, 60 million per day, can't they just pay someone to go through the movies 3 times before they send them? Or do they want to put those there by design, like Matt says, that they leave bread crumbles after them and they soak those crumbles, sorry my expression, but they soak them in urine so that we just laugh at us and mock us. What do you think about all this, the system giving us everything from our science to our news with lies, but sometimes they do some mistakes. Do you think is it mistakes, or are they there by design? That's my question, Mike.
Yeah, it's by design, Sam. So there are very, very few mistakes. We'll just start with the clues that the Beatles left with regard to biological Paul McCartney dying, right? So they left clues in all of their songs going back to Sgt. Pepper in 1967, the release of Sgt. Pepper, all the way through, and Billy is still leaving clues. So when people say, oh, he's a liar, Billy's been lying, no, Billy hasn't been lying. Billy has been dropping clues since day one.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you don't know to look for the clues, or if you want to blow past the clues, if you don't want to believe them, if you want to rationalize them, if you want to make something else out of them, that's on you. But from the minds of the people who are controlling, they are telling you. It's what Mark Devlin, my good friend Mark Devlin, refers to as revelation of the method. They are telling you, this is how it works. This is what's going on. If you don't want to see it, if you don't want to believe it, that's not on us. That's on you. There's a saying in Freemasonry, and the saying, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it goes like this. There are those people who possess the key for knowledge, and there are those that do not. And so the Freemasons are very binary about this. It's black and white. Either you possess the key
or not.
Or not. So all of these other things that you spoke about, we see these events, these staged events take place, and there's things that we need to question about these events, like you mentioned. That's not by accident. They're not getting sloppy. I've heard some people say, oh, they're getting sloppier. No, they're putting that out there because for those who possess that key, you will begin to understand what the reality is all about and how it works. To me, this is part of the transition that we're going through from one age, the Piscean age, into the Aquarian age. It is to put information out there, and for those that get it, they will be better off. I mean, they'll start to understand how this reality actually works. It's like the whole thing with 9/11, 19 hijackers with box cutters. Well, do we really believe that? Do we really believe that a passport can be found on the ground at ground zero that is in perfect condition? It isn't singed by the fire and everything else. It's not dirty from all the dust and all that stuff. These are all things that are put out there. As an example, you talked about the glitches that we see with NASA, with the International Space Station and all this. Are those done accidentally? No, of course not. Because when they're putting this stuff together, they have to review it, and they're looking at it, and they're putting it out. And because they know, Sam, that there's a very small percentage of the population that's going to get it, a very small percentage of the population that's going to grab onto it and question it, and everybody else is basically just either not going to see it because they're doing something else, like staring at their phone or staring at their feet, or if they do see it, they just blow it off and they just have cognitive dissonance because they don't want to have to think deeply. They don't want to have to say, oh, you know what? I think I've been lied to. It's like the same thing with the moon landings and all that stuff. Anybody can go online today and they could take a look at the lunar module and they could see that there's no way, there is absolutely no way that that vehicle went from Earth to the moon, traveled through space, and landed on the moon. It's just not possible. I mean, just look at the construction of the thing. But there are people that don't want to accept that because they love the romance of space, Sam. They love the fact that we landed on the moon, man, or humanity's greatest achievement. They want to think in terms of space travel because they watch Star Trek and Star Wars and Battleship Galactica, and they want to believe in probes going out to Pluto and to Saturn's rings, and they want to believe in far off planets where we can one day inhabit, and they want to believe in aliens and spaceships and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, that's all contrived nonsense. But we have to be careful because it at face value, it is nonsense. But even NASA is telling you the truth, but it's encoded. NASA is an occult organization. NASA, when you have the likes of Jack Parsons, who was an acolyte, a disciple of Aleister Crowley, NASA is completely occulted, everything that they're doing. So the reason why we have planets and elliptical orbits and all that stuff, the reason why they went to the heliocentric model is because circles and curved lines are considered divine in the mystery religions. So when you go back to Copernicus and Galileo and all these other guys, they want to call them scientists. Well, they were not scientists. They were alchemists and mystics, first and foremost. And so that's why, we have the heliocentric model today. So the heliocentric model, it's depicting the belief system and the religion of the ancient mystery religions, which goes back to Egypt, the Egyptian mysteries. but they present it to the profane, to the unknowing, as heliocentrism.
Modern science.
It's not science. The term scientism is accurate. It is an ism. It's an ISM. It is a belief system, and it's the belief system and the religion, the ideology, and the spirituality of those that are controlling and that are in power. Even the flat earth, right? We talk about geocentrism. I like to refer to it as geocentrism, not the flat earth, because flat earth has become a conspiracy term like chemtrails. If you want to talk about chemtrails, we should refer to the term geoengineering. So flat earth was not introduced organically. It was not organic. It was set up to be presented so that those with, like you mentioned before, eyes to see and ears to hear,
yep,
would take a look at it and pick up on it. That it was introduced intentionally.
That was my next question. That really a flat Earth, that a guy like Eric Dubay just find it out one day and make videos and books, and you have it on YouTube, and Obama talks about it, and mainstream talks about it. I really didn't felt that was organic. So my question to you was, do you think that the flat Earth is organic? And if you could build into it, because the solar system is about a core in the middle and stuff orbiting around it. If we look at on an atom is also exactly like a solar system. How real do you think that science is coming from 2,000 years ago, and the flat Earth's if it's organically growing or not, and why? Can you give us your thoughts there, Mike?
I don't believe that the flat Earth movement was organic at all, Sam. It was put into play by the controlling mechanism, and we can argue till the cows come home. The various players in the flat Earth community. I don't get into names. I let folks draw their own conclusions, whether they're on somebody's payroll or not, or whether somehow they're being rewarded or subsidized to put information out. I don't know. I mean, is it possible? Of course it's possible, but I don't know who's picking up a check and who's not. But the thing is, the flat Earth, like everything else that comes into play, just did not materialize out of nowhere. It had to be put into play. You have to think to yourself, how did we go from 500 years of heliocentrism and nobody really questioning it to 2015, and all of a sudden it's a big, big blot on the radar?
Yep. An Illuminati game card from 1990 something, no?
Exactly. Going back to the Illuminati game cards and stuff like that. So it's not organic, but very little in this reality, if anything at all, Sam, is organic. I had a conversation with Ole Dammegard going back a couple of years ago, and I said anything worth knowing is a lie. So if it's worth knowing, folks, bet your bottom dollar that there's some level of deception and lie built into whatever it is that you were told and taught.
Yeah. Because I say, Mike, that I don't believe that Earth is flat. I don't believe that Earth is a ball. I don't think that we are spinning around the sun with water stick onto us. But still, I wouldn't call myself a flat earther. I try to be the wise one and say, okay, I don't know. The only thing I know that there is no measurable curve. There is no, the horizon follows your eyes. We have the same sky had the same sky for a couple of thousand years. The stars doesn't change their places.
Right.
So those facts are in place. There are also experiments done, commented by Einstein himself, that it's awkward that the experiment showed that Earth is motionless. But I believe that the world is ruled by mathematicians, and they want us to just only we name it and measure it and put a limit on it, call it for flat or ball, so they are happy with it. What do you think about that, Matt? Do you think this is their purpose to make us, I mean, if we imagine that this place would be some kind of non-physical illusion, where the real Mike and Sam are sitting in another world with maybe Google glasses and playing live here, and this would be, I mean, take Avatar, the movie Avatar. imagine that the people, the blue people, their job was to do anything in their power to make the guy in wheelchair to forget that he is a human being, that he is that blue man. And that's how it feels that we are in this world. So what do you think the purpose of this kind of engineering is, Mike? Imagine that, do you think that we are in a experiment? We have 2,000 mice or 2,000 mice, and we give them assignment and then watch what they are doing and study them. Is it what they are doing with us, Mike? Are they study us?
I don't think that they need to study us, Sam. I think the people who are in power, especially as it goes higher and higher up that pyramid, they understand very well how humans think and how humans operate and how to steer and manipulate consciousness. Now, I want to say one thing. I agree with you. I do not refer to myself as a flat earther. The reason for that is because as soon as you put a label on yourself, you constrain yourself. So I don't think in those terms. To me, geocentrism or flat earth is an area of research that I have looked into, and I keep all of my options open. Because like you said, we don't really know. Could it be like a simulation? Yeah, it could be. It's something that boggles the mind when you really, sit down and start to think about it. And I think everybody should do some philosophizing once in a while. It will do wonders to make you try to understand what your purpose is. I agree that we should not box ourselves in with labels and to go join camps, flat earth, heliocentrism. As soon as you start to put yourself in a box, you are in a box. And I myself refuse to do that. Now, going to your question about, why are they doing this? This is going to be probably difficult for some folks, but I do believe that they are trying. When I say they, I believe that within the pyramid, they are trying to move humanity forward into the next age. So let me explain what that means. If we go back to Greek mythology and we go back to the Hindu texts, they talk about the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, and the Gold Age. So there's 4 ages. And I believe we are in the Iron Age. Okay, and we are transitioning out of the Iron Age, which happens to be coinciding with moving out of the age of Pisces and into the age of Aquarius. And we're going from the Iron Age and we are transitioning now into the Bronze Age. Now, my theory is that this pyramid that I talk about, this pyramid of power, is responsible for the managing of each age. So, when we are in the Iron Age, the pyramid of power is responsible for ensuring that the Iron Age conducts itself in Iron Age criteria. Deception, lies, hardship, wars, separation from source, being disconnected from source, from God, from the Creator. Those are the attributes of the Iron Age. And I believe that pyramid of power has to manage that. And then when we move, as we start to move now into the Bronze Age, they will now shift their management system from this very dark, heavy Iron Age into a lighter existence where we now move into the Bronze Age and things will get a little bit better, a little easier. It won't be as hard as the Iron Age. Now, the transition, I believe, takes hundreds of years. It's not a light switch. Turn it on, turn it off. Okay, so there has to be a management system to manage the ages. This is how I have kind of settled in on this thing, the way I'm looking at it. That's why people sometimes get upset with me when I say, well, the pyramid of power is not evil. And they will say, oh, what are you talking about? It's not evil, Mike. Look at all the evil shit that's going on. It's got to be evil. And I explain to them that's because the age that we are in, that's how that age is supposed to be conducted. That's how it's supposed to roll along. But as we move along, things are going to change. How else can you explain? All of this stuff is coming forward now to wake people up. We're learning about, like, my thing over the last 3 years is to awaken people about the Beatles and McCartney and the music industry. How do you explain the fact that people are becoming more aware of the foods that they eat? People are moving away from GMO. People are moving away from fluoride. People are moving away from aspartame. People are becoming very aware of flu shots and vaccines and very aware of the aerosol spraying and all of this stuff. This is an awakening.
What you're saying right now, is it? Do you think that they want us to get angry? They want to create opinion. They want to create a mob against the government. So we they make the government the bad guy with fluoride and aerosol and chemtrails and vaccines, and we get so angry at the government, so we finally want them out. Do you think that because this morning they show in Swedish TV that, oh, you need to use fluoride in your toothpaste and wash your mouth with fluoride, or else your kids will lose all their teeth. It was a really scary propaganda this morning. Do you think that, Mike, they want to make us angry so we overthrow our governments?
I believe, Sam, what they're doing is, and again, a lot of people are going to have a hard time with this. I believe that they are pushing the envelope more and more to make it so absurd that more and more people will wake up. So your example with the governments, right? So many people trust the government. And here in the United States, people still believe, most people still believe in the left-right paradigm.
Exactly.
Right? Two-party system.
Yep.
And then what's happened is, what we're seeing now, it's becoming a cartoon. Trump is a cartoon. Just like Obama was a cartoon.
Yeah.
And George Bush Jr. was a cartoon. And Bill Clinton was a cartoon, right? So what we're seeing is that I believe they're trying to make it so incredibly absurd.
Yeah.
So comical. So nonsensical that people would step back and say, wait a minute. What is going on here? This is not right. In alchemy, they believe, the magicians, the mystics, in the occult, they believe, Sam, that in order to bring in the new, you have to completely destroy the old. Take the old system, the old ways, and you have to obliterate it. There can be nothing left of it. And once you've done that, then the phoenix rises from the ashes.
Yep.
The new system, the new way of being, the new way of thinking, the new way of consciousness is what prevails. Now, there's a lot of bad stuff that goes on. There is no question about it. But I sit back and I think to myself, there's got to be a rhyme and a reason behind all of this stuff. We have all of this bad stuff going on. More and more people now are becoming very, very aware of pedophilia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was something that was very taboo, Sam, going back even 10, 20, 30 years ago. Nobody spoke about it. But today, people are talking about it. Even people who are in mainstream thinking, watching mainstream news, know who Jeffrey Epstein is.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, we can argue till the cows come home whether Epstein killed himself, didn't kill himself, whatever it may be. But the truth of the matter is, when we push all that stuff aside, we know this. He was involved in trafficking. And we know that a lot of very powerful people were associated with him. And I believe that all of this comes to the forefront in order to try to get people to wake up. Now, the system is going to push back because we are in that transition period between the Iron Age and the Bronze Age. The people who benefited from the old system are not going to give up easily. They're going to dig in.
Yep, exactly.
But at some point, what happens is they can no longer hold their place. They can no longer stay entrenched because as more and more people wake up, the rising of the consciousness will steamroll over them. And that's when the new age will begin to get traction and things will really start to get better. So the point I'm trying to make here is things are going to get worse and uglier before they get better.
What scares me, just a continuation on what we say right now, what scares me very much is that we have a magician. He the people are amazed and worship the magician, but the people like you and me and the people in the truth community, for them, he are wifting with his right hand while he deceiving us with his left. And with that said, I mean that it feels like I remember it started with Madonna and Britney Spears having a tattoo on their neck about Kabbalah, and people started to go into that. Then the book Da Vinci Code came, then Zeitgeist came, then Alex Jones, and then David Icke, and from there it began. And I feel like the magician, he put David Icke, Alex Jones, tattoo of Madonna and Britney Spears, Kabbalah, that he put them there for, that's his left hand wifting for me and you and the truth community, while he doing his ugly things with his right hand. For example, the moon landing, it is so, I mean, if they have been there, they have done a great job to hide it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What is your thought about this, what I explained about the magician and how they work? Like, just let me give you another example, that if let's say that I want you and the guys on my street to believe that I have found a UFO, but I don't have any UFO. I just want to deceive you. So the best thing for me to do is go and buy a toy UFO, put it in my car, and let a foot stick out. Drive through the city, and then go home and hide the toy, and then deny it. And from the moment I deny it, the people doesn't require evidence no more. They just point at me and say, "Ha, he lied. He must have we saw his foot sticking out your car." And I just say, "No, I don't have any UFO." And when I deny it, they don't even require evidence. They just buy into it. And I am so scared that we in the truth community are getting deceived by waking up. Now it's coming a new Mandela Effect movie. The Madonna had the last MTV Music Award. She finished it with saying, "People, wake up," and behind her are big signs, "Wake up, people." So they really, Hollywood and those we feel are against us, or we label against us at least, are trying to wake us up doing what you and I do. What is this strange thing, Mike? What's your view on that? Sorry for my long questions, but
No, Sam. No. So look, the first thing we have to understand is that in this reality, this realm that we're in, this experience is duality world.
Yes.
Right? That's why we have the Masonic checkerboard floor, right? Black and white represents duality.
Yes.
And so we're going to experience all aspects of that duality.
Yes.
Up, down, left, right, love, hate, happy, angry, all of that stuff. So that's what this is really all about. First and foremost, this is a spiritual journey for us, Sam.
Yeah.
When we come here to further develop our soul's understanding, or as Martin Kenny would say, our inner standing.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be doing first and foremost. We have to continue to work to develop our own spirituality and development of our soul, because that's why we're here. That's why we entered into this school. Think of Earth or this realm as a big classroom.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. Now, the thing we have to also understand is that when we talk about the truth community is not cohesive. The truth community is very fractured.
Yep.
It's loaded up with controlled opposition. It's loaded up with people who have good intentions but are not well researched.
Yep.
It's loaded up with people that give opinions but want to state them as fact.
Exactly.
So what happens is by the time you get through the truth community, I know this has happened to me, I end up listening to very, very few people. In the beginning, I listened to everybody. I was taking everything in. It was like a fire hose in my mouth, trying to consume all this stuff.
Yeah, absorb it.
Absorb it, right. And then over time, you start to assess who really is genuine, who's really sincere, or who really knows their stuff,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And what happens is a few years down the line, right, you find yourself maybe, I don't know, listening to maybe a handful of people.
Exactly.
That's what's happened to me, Sam. I used to have this whole broad array of people that I used to take a listen to. And today, to be honest with you, if you asked me to name 4 or 5 channels, I would struggle to do that. I really would, because even the channels that I like, that I still kind of listen to, I can see where there are gaps in their thinking and their research.
You have to have a skeptical hat on.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Because I have a couple of videos where where I have criticized many on internet, and I don't want to name drop, but people who are constantly driving same agenda. They're coming and killing us. They're coming and killing us. It will the end of the world, or only about flat Earth. It just caught up people, close them inside a box, and just repeatedly about flat Earth and Freemasons, flat Earth and Freemasons.
Right.
And sometimes it feels that they use the same method as CIA do when they brainwash people. And sometimes they have information. For example, they can find a pyramid upside down or whatever in a small corner in a movie from 1963 or something. How do they do that if somebody doesn't give it to them? So a lot of my works are about to be careful, and even people like Jimi Hendrix was controlled opposition. The strongest force against the Vietnam War was a gang of hippies and drug users. So I try what I'm trying to say, or the question about the question I have is connected again to the purpose of engineering and the levels of them. What do you think, Mike? For example, the pyramid and the power structure. We have. Where would you put the people? For example, take chemtrails, for example. I really don't want to use that term. Who does pay for all of this spraying all around the world 24/7? How is paying for that? Is it these powerful families, JP Morgan and Rockefeller, or are they just actors and doesn't have so much power as we think? The really powerful people are behind the screen. So just take chemtrails, for example, Mike, please. Who do you think pay for all of this?
Well, I believe that's all paid for, Sam, that's all black ops. So let me give you my theory on this. So let's take a look at NASA. You mentioned that NASA gets $50 million a day, right?
Yes.
What are they doing with the $50 million a day? Well, certainly doesn't cost them $50 million a day to put out CGI, right? So where is the money going?
Exactly, yeah.
The money is going to these black ops programs. So what they do is they have a veneer, they have a front.
Yes.
Right? It's almost like money laundering.
Exactly, yeah. I understand.
In a way.
Yeah.
So they have this entity which people perceive to be legitimate, NASA.
Yes.
And this entity, this organization is receiving a boatload of money.
Yes.
Paid for by the taxpayers. Where does the money go from there? What happens to that money once the checks are handed over to them? Nobody knows that. except for the people who are receiving the checks and going off and doing whatever. So it's the same thing with funding the CIA. It's the same thing with funding DARPA. All of these organizations are all in place and they're all receiving money.
Yes.
Now, to go to your question about like the JP Morgans and the Rothschilds and stuff like this, they are not at the top of the pyramid, right? So in the book, going back for a second to the memoirs of Billy Shears, Billy has a very interesting chapter in the book called Masonic Checkmate. In that chapter, he explains the structure. So the structure of the pyramid works like this. There are 66 degrees, or think of 66 steps on the ladder within the pyramid. The first 33 is the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. The next 13 are the 13 degrees of the Illuminati. So when we talk about the Illuminati is not just one degree. Even within the Illuminati itself, there are 13 degrees that people progress through. And then above that, there's another 20 degrees of people or beings that we will never know who they are. So when you add up the 33 plus the 13 plus the 20, we get 66.
Yeah.
That's why we keep seeing the number 66 all the time. Route 66, right? 66 is everywhere. The 66 represents the 66 degrees within the pyramid. So people like the JP Morgans, the Rothschilds, if they have a public profile,
yeah,
let me just word it that way, then that's not to say that they don't have powerful positions. It's not to say they're not powerful people, but they are not the most powerful. There are people above them that they work for. The people who are the most powerful are unseen.
Many say that they can print money, the Rockefellers. Is it their own printer or is it somebody else owning that printer?
Think of the printing money piece of this, Sam, as an exercise in computer programming. That's all it is. I mean, today, money is all digital. They can create any number that they want in a system.
Yes.
So when they say things like the U.S. is $50 gazillion in debt,
yeah,
it's fictional.
Fictional, yeah. But do you think that, because even if that is fictional, still you and me have to fight for our living, and money is
yes.
still real, and people like Clinton still kill people for money. So if we take the printer as a symbol only, like the power of the money, do you think Rockefeller really have the power over the dictating money, digital or non-digital? Or do you think that you have a boss who really, because many people say that they don't go to Iraq for the money or the oil. They have other purposes. And I do believe they have other purposes, sacrifice purposes. But those Wall Street people, those Clintons, without those greediness, we wouldn't have those war. I think there are people above them where purposes are different. Do you think that, Mike, and do you think that the Rockefeller and Clinton and those powerful people dictate everything about money, or do their bosses that?
I believe it's above them, Sam. So
yeah,
like the Clintons and the Rockefellers and all of the other powerful people that we see that have a public face, they receive their orders, right? They have job descriptions, and they're told, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and make sure that happens and make sure this happens. And when you do that and you do a good job, you're going to be rewarded. And that reward is to have material things. It's to have big houses. It's to have prominent jobs, to have influence and affluence and have a ton of money, right?
Yeah.
But when you think about even those people, they are operating within the system that requires money.
Yep.
So that tells you that even though they're high up the food chain within that system that requires money,
yes,
above that, there is a system where money doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Because that part of the pyramid has everything. That part of the pyramid put into play.
Yes.
And created the landscape that you and I have to operate in.
Operate and live in.
At the higher levels within that pyramid, those people are truly sovereign. There are no boundaries. They're not walking around with passports, and they're not walking around with driver's licenses. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you think they live in this place? Do you think they live on land that are known for us, for the public?
I believe they have that. If we think in terms of more land,
Yes.
and some people cringe at that. They're like, what do you mean more land, Mike? We have maps. Well, the maps that you're looking at are the maps that they gave you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And how would you know? I mean, how would you and I know? Would we have the ability to go traverse to far off lands to make sure that the maps are correct? Even when somebody goes into an airplane, you know, a pilot gets on an airplane, he just can't fly willy-nilly off someplace. He's got to follow a flight path.
Exactly.
Right? When a ship goes someplace, a ship just can't wander off. It's got to navigate the way ships navigate.
Exactly.
So the possibility, and I say it's a possibility, that there's other land.
Yeah.
That these people could be residing on or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I can't say it doesn't exist. So I have to say that it's possible.
They lie about exactly everything else.
Everything.
They lie about this, which would be very important.
The biggest problem, Sam, is that, and you know this, right? People take whatever's handed to them.
Yeah.
And they say, it's true.
Exactly. Yep.
Right?
Yes.
So if you're handed a map, whether it be a flat earth map or it be a globe map or whatever, people look at that and say, that's the world. That's the way it looks. And then when you say, well, how do you know it looks like that?
Exactly.
Well, because that's a map. Well, okay, well, who put the map together? I don't know. Map experts.
Yeah.
And then they just shut down because they start to think that the conversation becomes ludicrous. And at face value, it might seem ludicrous, but you have to think deeper. And when you get more and more into research, into areas of conspiracy and alternative research, as we've been saying, everything's a lie.
Yeah.
Everything's a lie. So you should question everything. Don't really take anything at face value. You should investigate it. If it interests you, you should investigate it. Now, we can't investigate everything, obviously, because there's so much stuff out there.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So I don't know. I mean, to answer your question, like, they could very well be on identified land that's on a map, and it's just, you know, very like paradise where they're at. They certainly don't live by the laws that are given to us. Absolutely not. But could there also be other land?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's possible, yeah.
Because, Mike, the 27 Club, when there are so many celebrities who just, he died, his sister died. I mean, I had some suspicion that it might be that if everything is a lie as it is, and everybody's actors, and they don't call any real shots, the politicians, the news are fake, why should we believe that Kurt Cobain shot himself and Aaliyah died from a flight crash, and maybe they have some kind of deals with the devil? I saw the one of your videos where you refer to Bob Dylan saying that, and I saw that clip. He says, "I made a bargain with the the chief
the chief commander.
The chief commander, exactly. But he starts to say the dev, and then so they are editing those things. I believe, but going back to my question, is there? I mean, how far does their power stretch? This is one of the important question that I wanted to ask you. When you have researched the Paul and Beatles as you have done, and I really see you as one of the world's best researcher, as I introduced you as. But while you have researched them, I know that you going through a lot of occult, a lot of Freemason information about the pyramid that you said. So how far does their power stretch, and does it stretch beyond this world, you think? Do they, I mean, we wake up here one day with amnesia. Is it there work? Is it their handiwork? And how far does their power stretches? If you would just give me some of your thoughts about that, Mike.
Okay, so let me just break it down a couple of ways, Sam. So how far does their power stretch? Well, going back to what I said before about the pyramid. So the pyramid controls everything in this reality. It controls everything. So it controls everything outside the pyramid. Obviously, within the pyramid, there's control within that also. But when I say they control outside the pyramid, what I mean is the controllers within the pyramid, the 66 degrees that I talked about before, the Masons, the Illuminati, and then above the Illuminati, they determine what it is that this reality is going to be all about. So right off the bat, we could say that their control is full spectrum. It's everything. They control everything.
But my question, Mike, do you think their control is beyond this world? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Beyond the physical world?
Yeah, because Bob Dylan says he's the chief commander of this world and the unseen world, he says on his and I just wonder how far does their are they the criminals who make us get amnesia when we are landing here, so that does their power stretches beyond this unseen world? What would your thoughts be?
My thoughts are that I'll start this way. There are people out there in the truth community that say that Earth is a soul trap. Earth is not a soul trap. Your soul is not trapped. Now, when Dylan was saying that he made a deal with the chief commander, which is Lucifer. Okay, we'll just call a spade a spade. It's Lucifer / Satan, right? There is an unseen world. Okay, now the unseen world doesn't mean that that's all of the spiritual world. It doesn't mean it's the spirit world. It just means that there are beings in the unseen world that if you connect into, that if you summon and you ask favors of, things could happen. But there's always going to be a trade-off. So when we come into this world with amnesia, it's not because the bad guys are erasing our memories. It's because we're coming into this world with amnesia so that we can learn with a clean slate. If you come in with all of your prior knowledge, I'm a reincarnationist. I believe in reincarnation. So if you come in with all of your understandings and your learnings and you can recall it all from prior lives, that's going to interfere with your learning.
Exactly.
So you've got to start new with a clean slate, with a blank piece of paper, and make your way through this life. That's how you learn. But when they talk about unseen forces, there are unseen forces. But when we talk about otherworldly beings outside of the physical realm, that doesn't constitute the entire spirit world. Not at all.
Yeah, no.
What Dylan is saying is that when you go to the crossroads, because that's what Bob's talking about. Bob's talking about going to the crossroads. Anybody who wants to research it, go back to Robert Johnson. He was really the first, where the legend of the crossroads plays out. He was a blues musician, guitarist, and was unknown. And then he went to the crossroads. And after he went and made a deal with the devil, he became a great blues guitarist. Died young. He joined the 27 Club.
Yes.
That's what Bob is saying. Bob is saying that you can plug into aspects of reality that are outside the physical world. And if you go there, you could ask for certain favors. You could ask for a change in your script. So when you come here, as an example, you have a script. So your script says you're going to do X, Y, and Z.
A cue card.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is what you're here to learn.
Yeah.
But if you go to the unseen world, let's just say you cut a deal with, I'll just use these terms for simplicity. You cut a deal with the devil, Satan, Lucifer, and you say, you know what? But I want my life to be about this. I want to be a great singer. I want to be a great guitar player. I want to be a great actor. Lucifer or the devil's going to come back to you and say, I can make that happen. I can change your script. So when you make a deal like that, well, there's going to be something in exchange. It's never free. When you make a deal like that, when you want your life script changed, it's not free. So Lucifer, Satan, the devil, they are going to get something in return. So what are those things, right? Well, it could be, and we've seen this so many times. You mentioned the 27 Club.
Yes.
We could talk about Brian Jones, John Bonham, Freddie Mercury, Keith Moon, Jim Morrison, biological Paul McCartney, and the list goes on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
What happens is you get to experience an enormous amount of success, fame, notoriety, stuff in the material world that most people would not experience in 10 lifetimes. You're going to get it, but your life is going to end at an early age.
Yeah.
So you live life to the fullest, and then you're out of here. Okay? That's part of the deal. The other part of the deal goes like this, and we've seen this with Billy playing Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, Dylan himself, all these other really, really old rockers that are still pumping it out in their 70s, pushing their 80s. The other part of the deal is this. Lucifer says to them, okay, I'll do this for you, but you know what? You're going to work until you drop dead. Okay? There's no rest for the weary Billy Shears. There's no rest for the weary Mick Jagger. You're going to keep going. And you're going to keep going until you drop dead. And that, to me, is the two most prominent scenarios, as I've done my research, Sam, that I have seen. You live life just loaded up with success and fame, which includes, by the way, stuff that's not so good, drug addictions and alcohol addictions, vices and stuff like that. You live life to the quote-unquote fullest, and then you're out of here at an early age. And then there's the other angle, which is you're going to do this until we bury you.
Yeah.
But you're going to keep going. But the thing is, Earth is not a soul trap. It is not, okay?
Yeah.
It's just, when you come here, there are mystical aspects of this. Magic is real. The occult is real.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't want to get their heads wrapped around this. And if you're going to dabble in it, okay, or if you're going to become an expert in it, then there's going to be this whole other aspect of your reality, of your existence that's going to come into play. Look, I always tell people, Sam, never play with a Ouija board. Ever, ever, ever.
Yes, don't.
Okay?
Yep.
Don't. I mean, I used to when I was a kid. My brother, and my sister used to play with one. And let me tell you something. It wasn't soon after that. It wasn't good. There was a lot of stuff that was very creepy and very dark.
Yep.
So be careful what you get yourself into. Be careful about what you ask for. Be careful about where your thoughts are at. That's all I can say.
Mike, this will be the best if you have a little bit more energy. This will be the very best. The English word escaping my mind, but in Swedish we call it for övergång, and it's transit. The best transit ever. I have a question about your sleep paralysis, because
yes,
during my time listening to you, from time to time, you have never done a whole video about this, but from time to time you mention it very short in your videos. And I am one of those who, and many others who have write comments also, who really wants to know a little more about your experience. And personally, myself, I had this kind of paralysis that, first of all, let me just say that today's science says that sleep paralysis is a reflex that we have from the past, where we were apes and slept up on the trees. It paralyzes us so that we don't move, and so we don't fall from the trees when we sleep up on the trees. But I have another theory about sleep paralysis. It's that second, those 3-4 seconds or 5 seconds where your soul leaves your body, so your body can rest and your soul does whatever he wants to do. Because I have one experience, Mike, I really want to tell you before I ask my question. And one night I woke up and had a creepy feeling that someone is in the room, in the house. And it was the time where I had sleep paralysis, and I was really scared for them. I didn't know what it was. and I just told my girlfriend that if you hear me humming like, please wake me up, because just touch me, do something, just touch me because I will wake up, do something. I was so scared of it. But one night, during this sleep paralysis, I was sleeping as normal and suddenly woke up with a creepy feeling that someone was in the room. And I lay on the bed. I looked at my right side, and exactly I saw myself walking out the door from the bedroom. And then the other me who was on his way out from the bedroom, he turned around and saw the Sam who was on the bed. And I was the soul. I wasn't the body in the bed. I was the soul walking out. I know I have that feeling, but still my body was his own entity with his own memory and feelings and stuff. And my soul, what was its own, with his own memory and feelings. And I felt that when we merge those two together, that's me. And when I die, the machine, my body will be here. Probably maybe all the memories who are not necessary will be kept in the brain, and everything else will lose from my body and leave. Because I felt there that my soul had a thought that, no, he saw me. I felt, the guy who was leaving the door, I felt his feeling that, oh no, Sam saw me. And when I heard his feeling, because I heard his feeling inside me, suddenly I woke up again. And and then it was like, and I was like, my soul just ran back into my body, and I woke up one more time. But I was woke both times. I know that because I saw my girlfriend move, and so that's my experience from sleep paralysis. And I know that your experiences is that you just get into a really strange realm. There you were very scared in the beginning, where you were young, when you get those. Can you just take us through your experience about sleep paralysis and that realm? What kind of realm is it, and what was your experiences first when you were scared, and how did it felt when you didn't was scared, or when you stopped to be scared, did they stop then? That's my question, Mike. Sorry for all these long questions.
Oh, no, that's okay, Sam. So I've had sleep paralysis ever since I can remember. So ever since I was a young boy, and I still have it. So it's been going for a long, long time. It is not what the mainstream science is saying, or these articles about sleep paralysis. They try to explain it away in very strange ways. And for me, sleep paralysis is when we actually dip into a different dimension or realm. And a lot of times when I have sleep paralysis, what happens, Sam, is I'm lying in bed, and for those who have sleep paralysis, you'll know what I'm talking about. For those who haven't, this might seem very weird, but you're lying in bed and you can't move your body, but you can actually see. You could see what's going on in the room. You can actually, you can move your eyes left, right, and so on.
You can hear everything.
You can hear things, yes. So for me, what would happen often is the room I was in was my bedroom, but it was slightly off. In other words, there might be a picture hanging on the wall in sleep paralysis that wasn't there in my waking state.
Oh, so weird. Oh my God.
Other times it would be, the room would be completely different. It would be a different configuration. Sometimes it would be, I would hear my daughter downstairs in the kitchen, but my daughter wasn't with me. In other words, she wasn't at the house. Other times it would be my dog who splits his time between my daughter's house and my house, Charlie. he would be in the room with me and I can actually sense him and see him there. But Charlie wasn't with me that night. He was at my daughter's house.
Oh my God, this is so weird. Yeah. This is a parallel realities. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a different reality, and that's what it is. Now, the thing is, those other dimensions or those other realities are a little dark. So I think what happens is we kind of dip our toe into those darker realms, not because that's where we belong. It's because it's what our soul decides to experience. In other words, what is it like in those realms? Now, many times when I was younger, the sleep paralysis was very scary. It was very dark, and there were beings that were in the room. Some of them were like shadow beings. They liked to hover very close to your body, like to my body. They would be very, very close.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would actually get close up to my ear, and they would whisper in my ear, and the voices were very demon-like. It was really, really kind of it was scary. It was scary stuff, especially when you're young.
I try to make that connection with amphetamine and schizophrenia, and they call it for mental illness, which I don't believe it is schizophrenia. But go on, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's not schizophrenia, because when you wake up out of it, I mean, you're you and you don't have a mental health issue, you know.
What I meant was that schizophrenia is what I believe schizophrenia is that it's the same kind of demons who you are so weak that they take power over you in this reality too, and you start to hear voices. I don't believe that schizophrenia really is that what mainstream says. That's what I said. But
okay.
No, paralysis have nothing to do with schizophrenia. No.
That's why it's very important that your spiritual connection and your spiritual development is very strong. We'll get to that in a moment. So what happened over time, Sam, I would be in sleep paralysis and I would hear things going on in the house clear as day. I had one time when the sleep paralysis was so paralyzing.
Yeah.
That I finally broke out of it, because all you need to do is like move one of your extremities, your foot or your hand, and you could break out of it. That's how I do it.
Yes.
And I remember I was sweating in bed after I got out of it. And that's how hard it was to get out of it. And I do believe what's happening is your soul does leave your body.
Yes.
I do believe that, because I had an experience not exactly like yours, but very similar. But in this one instance, what happened was I woke up out of it, and I was, like I said, I was sweating, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I had my head in my hands because it was just so draining. It drains your energy too. It makes you very tired.
Exactly.
And to the left of me, a little up in the corner of the room, there was a woman's voice, a very wispy voice, but it was very clear. And she said to me, "I wish I could have helped you some more."
Oh my God! And you were awake? Have you already?
I was awake. It was a disembodied voice, and the voice was very nice. It was very kind, and the way I interpreted it was she was telling me, "I know that was a bit of a rough ride.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have helped you some more as far as breaking out of it."
Yeah. Okay.
And it was another time when I had a lot of these, but these are the two that I can kind of remember, which I can tell stories about.
Yeah.
I was lying in bed, and then I remember you said that you saw yourself leaving the room. I actually became aware of myself sitting up out of my body. So my physical body was still lying on the bed.
Yeah.
And my soul body was sitting up. And when I did that, to my left, there was this etheric being. It was a woman who had blonde hair.
Yeah.
And she was reaching her hand out to me. And I could see her clear as day.
Mike, have you lost your mother or someone, a woman?
No.
No, okay. So because when you say a woman, is it somebody you can relate to?
No. She was blonde. She was very pretty, but she was in this long flowing dress. She was etheric. I mean, I could see her, but I could see through her.
Okay. She was like you could see,
like a ghost.
Yeah. Okay. Like a ghost. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting halfway out of my body, and she extends her hand out to me, and I said to her, of course, this is all done mentally, right? Because you're not speaking. And I said to her, well, I'm not going to give you my hand until you tell me who you are. Who are you?
Yes.
And she just smiled at me, and I said, well, and she reached her hand out, and I said, well, I need to know who you are first.
Yes.
And she just smiled, and then she pulled her hand back, and she moved back, and then she just faded away. These are the types of experiences that I've had in sleep paralysis. I am thoroughly convinced, different dimension, different reality.
Mike, sorry, I'm interrupting you so much because I'm so up to it. I have so many questions. The first time you saw you feel the voice, did you see any face or only the voice?
It was the voice, but I could sense shadow beings. I mean, there was like a dense type of outline of these beings, and so it was scary stuff, Sam. I mean, especially when you're young and you don't understand it. Now, I broke the spell by coming to the realization that once you're in sleep paralysis and you realize you're in it, just become very lucid. In other words, it's like navigating a lucid dream.
Yeah.
If these beings try to harass you or scare you, because that's what they do, they feed off the fear.
Yeah.
If you just tell them to go take a hike and you tell them, look, there's no fear,
Yeah.
you have no power over me. There's, nothing's going to happen. I know nothing's going to happen. This is just a little game that you're playing. And if I cut off that fear, I basically cut off their lifeline, right? What they feed off of. Once I came to that realization, I never had the scary sleep paralysis again. I still get it.
Yes.
But this time when I get it, it's not scary. It's like I hear my daughter downstairs when she's not downstairs. One time my mother was in the house. My mother doesn't live with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's those types of experiences, and I've actually come to find them extremely intriguing, because then I start to think to myself, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Where am I? I think I said we've dipped into or I shouldn't even use dip, because that means like we've lowered ourselves, but we've kind of nudged our way over into a different reality, a different frequency, if you will. And that's what we're experiencing. That's what I think it is.
Exactly. How long did it take for you, Mike, till you broke the spell?
I would say about 10 years ago, Sam, maybe 10, 15 years ago, when I figured it out. And I guess I figured it out with some divine help,
Yeah.
So kind of your guide or your teacher or whatever saying, hey, you don't need to be scared, dude. All you need to do is stand your ground and just tell them to take a walk, and it's going to be okay. And once I did that, everything was okay.
It's and this takes me, when I ask about if you go back with the pyramid structure, the power pyramid, how far their power are stretching, because it feels like there is a power structure here in this reality who can affect luck. Say that I have a special cue card for my life. I have a special script for my life. And this is, I have felt this with money, for example. I am a non-materialistic person today. This hasn't been the case all the time. I have also the corporate world behind me, and it was important for me to drive expensive cars and stuff. But I have left everything of those behind me. But anyway, it feels like there is a power in this world who have hand in different worlds, and on somehow dictating everything, and making this place feels like, even though necessarily not an illusion, but some kind of program. Because when I have my sleep paralysis, I can either be, Mike, since I was a kid, I have never been interested in stuff my friend been interested in Hollywood movies and music in that mainstream music, mainstream movies. And especially computer games, Nintendo and stuff. But I have played a little bit, and I know that there are different levels, and there is one level where it look like your normal. So say that we have a game where you are walking on the street and hitting people, punching down people. You have a level where you can choose where you have exactly the same street, everything is the same, but it's only you. There is no opponent, there is nothing. It's only you, where you can train your power, you can train your moves. And I feel that sometimes when I'm paralyzed and sometimes because I have left my body 3-4 times, maybe 3, and one of those occasions, I just went into a realm where it was just exactly like here, but totally empty of everything. And I felt that this world and this reality have layers, like the game I talk about, and someone above who can dictate like things like luck. So if you have a cue card saying that you are here to learn and you shouldn't have money because with money you will then not reach your purpose. Whatever you do then, you will not make money. You can play lotto every day for a million times. You can have the best business idea and make a big business about it. Isn't it meant for you to have money that period? You will not have it. Can you just give me sorry about this mixed thought that I throw on you, Mike, but what is your thought about all this steering hand and somebody who steers luck, and what is your...
Well, I think that the pyramid itself, I'll start with the pyramid, Sam. Like I said, the pyramid is responsible for managing the ages. That's what I am thinking at this time. So when people think that the pyramid is evil, the all-seeing eye is evil, it's not evil. It's sacred geometry, sacred symbolism that's taking place. You have to have a management system to manage the age that we're in. So the first thing we have to keep in mind is that the creator, God, source, has not walked off the reservation.
He given us a cue card, you think? A script?
I believe that it's a loose script, Sam, meaning that there are certain aspects of the script which are going to happen because it's predestined. But how you get there and the ways you go about it, that's not just drawn out for you like a roadmap, right? Yeah. So you might take the long way to get there. You might take the short way to get there. But that's based upon decisions that you make. That's my personal belief system on that. Going back to the pyramid for a second, because this is very important.
Yeah.
You always need a management system to make sure that whatever's playing out is playing out properly. So the Iron Age has to play out.
Yep.
How is it going to play out the way it's supposed to play out if you don't have a governance, if you don't have a management system? That's what the pyramid is there for. When we move into the Bronze Age has different criteria. It's a different experience. It's a different level of awareness and consciousness.
Yep.
Well, you need stewards. You need an entity or people or beings that are going to ensure that the Bronze Age plays out the way it's supposed to, and then the Silver, and then the Gold.
Yes.
That's how I look at it. But as far as the different layers you mentioned, that's a very interesting thought, because there are folks that have theorized that the way reality works, it's like blankets laying on top of each other. So that would be the layers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you go down a layer, it's a different reality. It's a slightly different reality. If you go up, it's another reality. Some of those realities may have a lot of similarities. As an example, I don't know if you watched Twin Peaks 2017.
Oh, of course.
David Lynch shows us this toward the end when Agent Cooper winds up in a different reality with Laura Palmer, right? And he goes through that portal. And as he drives through that portal, he is in a reality that looks almost exactly like the reality he came from. But when he gets there, things are very different.
Different. Yep.
Very different. So David Lynch, David Lynch created Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
the 1990 version and the follow-up in 2017, David Lynch is a very high-level Freemason. And so Twin Peaks was telling us how this reality is layered, just like you said, the different layers.
Yep.
And I guess the point I'm making is, I know I'm a little long-winded here, is we just don't know, Sam. Everybody's guessing.
Yeah, of course.
And the thing is that the trick is to continue to explore and to discover. That's the beautiful part about what life is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
Is to break loose and think of things like that, about, is reality in layers? What is sleep paralysis? What am I experiencing? Did I astral travel? Did my soul leave my body? What is this reality all about? What's my purpose? Why am I here? So few people ever even contemplate any of that stuff. They're just on the hamster wheel, in the matrix, following the program.
But Mike, I just need to say to the audience also that, of course, that we don't know. And as I say, that we have a table where we put stuff on, and we just, I mean, is that possible? Maybe. Is that possible? Maybe. We don't really know everything, but considering having a guy like Mike having a guy like Mike who have done all this research in so many years outside the mainstream with his angle and seeing it from his point, there is a lot of value of on what you say, Mike. That I just wanted to add that. So of course we are guessing, but it's not only guessing. It's theories out from many researchers and from good sources and many years researchers, and from angles nobody of my audience probably have seen the world from. So this is I need to add that, Mike, only. So I had a question who popped up in my head, but I, of course, I lost it. But still, Mike, I'm still steering you forward that question. The Iron Age and all those. Is it? Do you believe that those top pyramids are from the seen world or from the unseen world?
I think that the pyramid originates from the unseen world. So again, I'm just sharing my thoughts, as you were saying to the audience, Sam. I mean, these are just my thoughts.
Yes.
People can agree, disagree. If it resonates, fine. If it doesn't, that's fine too. But yeah, I believe that at the very top of that pyramid is an unseen world. And that unseen world then obviously it has connections into the physical world, the seen world.
Yep.
And there are people at the very top of that pyramid that are able to have communications with the unseen world. And then it makes its way down the pyramid. So when we talk about Freemasonry as an example, and we talk about 32nd and 33rd degree Masons, they are not at the top of the pyramid. The Freemasons are really the operational arm of the pyramid. They're the ones that are in place, that are actually the foot soldiers.
Yeah.
That are making sure that, things play out the way things are supposed to play out. But at the top of that pyramid, to me, there's no question that it's the unseen world, and everything is tops down. So it starts from the unseen world, and then it branches down like a pyramid to the people who are responsible for controlling and operating the physical realm. That's how I think it works.
Mike, this world we are living in. I mean, I believe in God, and I am brought up Christian, but I am not Christian. I believe in some level, I believe that there is a God, and a piece of him was sent here maybe to give us a right path, something like that. But my main concern is that if there is a loving God, which the New Testament says, because the Old Testament is all about killing everybody who doesn't worship Jehovah, and the second is to turning around your cheek. But if we see that, do you really think that a God created this world, Mike, or do you think that a God created a much bigger thing, and we, our scientists, or the top pyramid created this place where we are coming to learn, and God have created something else, and with those tools we did create this world? If I put it up like that, what is your thought there? What would you say?
Well, I believe that there is a creator or a source that creates all. What that creator or source, what it is,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, could it be just pure consciousness?
Yeah.
The ultimate in consciousness? Could be. Energy? Could be. Do I think it's an actual person? I don't know. Could be, but I tend to doubt that. I believe that everything is about energy, frequency, and vibration, Sam.
Yeah. But Mike, do you think the creator created the world we are in right now? Because I have a feeling that this world is created by us in somehow, and God have probably created another world where we are living in, and which is the real world. And this is this world where, for example, we look out in the nature. I saw one. It's called the Kruger Park. It's a tourist filming 3 buffaloes walking into the ambush. There are 3 lions who are ambushing them, walking into their nest. And suddenly the lion rise up, take one of the buffalo's calves, and the 2 adult buffalo run away. 3 minutes later, or less, 1 minute later, the buffalo come back. They are 30, 40, 50 big buffaloes. They come back. They give the lions a big fight, and even kill one of the lions, and take back the calf and go home. That you would never see on Discovery. So for me, it says that dumb cow managed to go back to his pack, go to the pack leader, tell him that there are lions taking my calf, please help me. And she was able to, in some way, communicate that they will overpower them. They are more than them. And then they decided all together to go back and stand in a special formation and in a special triangle formation and attack the lions. For me, is that they are talking to each other, communicating, and they hide the whole reality for us. Sorry, Mike, I lost my question now, but
I think your question was about a creator.
Yes, exactly. Would he create something like that lions kill a cow? Because my point here is that if that cow can go back and talk, then he got feelings like you and me have. He don't want to be scared 24/7 of lions looking above his shoulder all the time. Why would a God create a system like that? Why wouldn't he create a system where everybody were vegetarian if he was loving? And of course, if we are sitting on a beach, we are not learning nothing. We need suffer. We need this. Of course, but in that so much, is it, or is it, maybe this is a God's world and it's hijacked? What do you say about that, Mike, about the creator? Have he created this world with all this suffering, or is it we ourselves, our scientists, who have created this world? What do you think about that?
It goes back to the ages, Sam. So there is a creator. So if you go to the Hindu Trinity, Hinduism believes in a trinity of gods, and we have many religions that believe that. And we have Brahma is the creator. So if we use Brahma or we use the Godhead, there's a singularity that created all this. But the creator decided, for whatever reasons, I don't know because I'm not the creator. So, but decided that there were going to be cycles. Everything goes in cycles. We have, summer, spring, fall, winter, everything goes in cycles. Life itself is a cycle. You're born, you live and you die. So Earth also goes through cycles. And the creator determined, I should say, that there was going to be these different ages.
Yes.
So in the Iron Age, we have what we have today. We have everything that we see. Going to the example that you just gave about the lions attacking the young buffalo.
Yeah.
And then the buffalo going off and getting their pack and saying, hey, we've got a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, what that means is that the animals are sentient, okay? That's what this means. It means that they are living, sentient creatures. They can communicate, and they do have feelings, and they do love.
Yeah.
Anybody who questions this, if you have a dog, or if you have a cat, you just have to put it into that perspective. We have been, because of this age, because of the Iron Age, we have been told that animals, the only value animals have really is for us to chop them up and put them in a supermarket and then barbecue.
Crazy. Yeah.
Right? That's what we have been conditioned to believe.
Yep.
All right?
Yes.
But that's part of this age, Sam. That's why today we have the increase in people who are going vegetarian, who are going vegan.
Exactly.
I saw one meme. It was such an ignorant meme. Person was saying that vegetarians and vegans, what about the animal kingdom where animals eat each other for food and so on? Well, my first response back to that is, we're supposed to be of higher consciousness, right? Higher beings than the animals that are hunting in the wild.
Exactly.
But the thing is, again, not to sound like a broken record, but the age has everything to do with what's going on. And as we migrate, as we transition out of this age, out of this Iron Age, we are going to see a different level of consciousness. Again, that's why vegetarianism, veganism, attention to food in general has come to the forefront. People are not eating or getting away from GMO food. They're demanding more organic food. People don't want the water to be fluoride. They don't want to be vaccinated. They don't want flu shots. We can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I have people that I know in my own family, Sam, that 5 years ago, when I talked about eating organic food, they thought I was a kook.
Yeah.
There's no difference between organic food and GMO processed food. And now, 5 years later, guess what? Guess what they're doing? They're shopping for organic food.
Yeah.
That's a shift in consciousness.
Yep.
Something is taking place. Something is in the ether. Something is in the air where more and more people are starting to understand this. And also, we do create our reality. So within this age that I'm talking about, this Iron Age, and we're transitioning into the Bronze now, your thoughts create your reality. So the more you believe in the lies, the more you believe in the deception, you're going to create more lies and more deception. Plain and simple. Thoughts create reality. Everything that exists manifested because of a thought. So you and I right now are talking into a microphone. Somebody had to have a thought about building a microphone.
Exactly.
Right? Somebody had to have a thought about building a desk or a chair or a rug or a light or a pencil sharpener. That just didn't, come into play because nobody thought about it. Everything comes into play based upon your thoughts.
Yes.
That's why it's so important to change the consciousness. Because once we change the consciousness and we raise awareness, then people's thoughts change. And when people's thoughts change, then the reality changes. And I think that's part of what we're going through now. That's part of the transition out of the Iron Age into the Bronze.
Yeah.
We still don't have critical mass. Clearly, we don't have critical mass. The transition, I believe, is hundreds of years. But as you and I move on, people will listen to shows like this. It will resonate with people. Other people will pick up the baton, Sam. They will pick it up. They will carry the message once you and I are not here anymore.
I hope so.
Absolutely, that's going to happen. I'm seeing it already. I really am. I'm very pleased with the number of young people. I'm talking about people who are in their 20s who are waking up. I mean, they see that this place is not, this is not right. There's something very wrong with the way it's running. And as I mentioned before, that's why it's become a cartoon. Politicians are cartoon characters, our governments and all that stuff, clown shows. And I believe that that's happening because that's how they're going to shake the tree. That's how they're going to get people who are not awake yet to wake up. It's got to get so bizarre and so weird that people will finally wake up and will achieve critical mass. When that's going to be, I don't know. But for people like you and I, we just keep going. That's
of course, definitely. Mike, I have a last question before I wrap it up, because I could go on forever with you, and I hope I can have you in the future again. But one last question for wrap it up here is, what do you think and what's your advice when people try to wake up siblings, parents, classmates, colleagues, and the only thing that they get back, and it's one thing, a red thread going through that, a common thing, that those who they try to wake up, their reaction is exactly the same. They're getting very upset, very angry, and they often it end up that the relation ends up, you get yourself enemies. So what's your advice? Should we try to wake others up, and how should the approach be in that case? What's your advice, Mike, to my Swedish audience from the investor group, but also to the Truth group from YouTube?
Well, the first thing to remember is priority one is yourself. So the first person that you need to wake up and awaken is yourself. That's number one. So this is an individual journey that we're on. A lot of people don't like that. They like to think in terms of communities. It's communal. You came here as a soul, and as a soul, you are responsible for your own personal individual development as you go through this experience. So that means to explore and to discover as much as you possibly can. Spread your wings as an individual and explore. And take in as much as you can take in. It's important to philosophize. It's important to be introspective and to be open. You must be open. As we go through that, it's natural to want to share the information with family and friends, but we have to be very, very careful about that. I learned the hard way, Sam. I did what everybody else did. I learned about 9/11. I started talking about it, and my family just was so angry and so aghast that I would think that the government actually would lie about 9/11, right? So what you've got to do is lead by example, right? So just go about your business, learn what you need to learn, research, investigate, discover, explore, do all of that, and then do stuff like what we're doing, talking to each other, networking. So what happens is when we go through this journey, because it is a journey, we build a tribe. We find our tribe, and our tribe are like you, and it's me, and it's when I talk to Sophia Smallstorm or Oli Damagard or any of the other folks that we communicate with or that we listen to. That's the way to go about it. And then when we are in conversations, my recommendation is to ease into it. Just ease into it. And if you sense this pushback, what I do is I just pull back, right? Because I don't want it to become a situation where the other person becomes very agitated and very mad and has hard feelings. Because I said on a couple of shows, my family is not where I'm at.
No.
Okay? But I also love my family.
Exactly.
And I don't want to have tension and stress and hard feelings with my brothers, my sister, my mom and dad. I don't want that. Okay?
Exactly.
So just take it slow is what I'm saying. Just take it slow. There's no silver bullet to this. There's no easy explanation as to how we go about this. See, some people in the truth community are like, I'm going to wake people up. And to me, that's the wrong approach. If you're out there trying to ram a square peg through a round hole, you're going to become very frustrated very quickly. And you're going to get very negative because you're going to think, oh, these people are just so stupid. I mean, talking to them, they're sheeple, they're this, they're that. And you don't want to be there. You don't want to be negative. People are going to move, Sam, at their own rate and pace. People are going to believe what they believe until something happens internally within them that says, hey, you know what? You need to think differently. You need to make some changes. It's funny. I've talked to my family and friends about stuff going back 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Then they'll come to me and say, hey, did you know? And I'm looking at them. I don't say anything. They look at me as if they just explored and discovered something that they need to tell me about. And I'm thinking to myself, I told you this 10 years ago.
Exactly.
Isn't that kind of weird how that works, right? I'm sure you've had the same experience.
I have, yes, about 9/11.
Which means everybody is on their road. I can't build their road for them, right? They have to be on their own road. My road is my road. That's what I'm going to focus on. And what I do is I just share my findings. I share my research and I share my thoughts. That's all I do. I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm really not. And if what I say makes sense to you or resonates and it makes you want to go look at something like the McCartney conspiracy as an example, great. If it doesn't and you think I'm crazy, well, okay, then don't listen to my shows.
And that's a learning I have taken from listening to guys like you and also Matt, that if they come to you and question you, I heard that you are into flat earth stuff. Explain it for me, or something like that. Then you can go into it, but don't try to start to argue or those channels who tell you buy a t-shirt is a good icebreaker, and standing on the street and screaming or getting in, only make yourself enemies with your family and friends and colleagues. That's no, because you cannot go to work tomorrow and say, hey guys, you know what? Earth is flat and NASA's pictures are all Photoshopped. That will not work. They will just turn your back to you and think that you are a dumb idiot. And Mike, I feel that the system have worked so many years to ridicule this term, this flat Earth term. It's almost like you take a t-shirt and write on it, I'm an idiot.
It's like chemtrails, Sam, right? It's like if you talk about chemtrails, people think you're a tinfoil hat wearer, right? They think you're a conspiratard. And they've done the same thing with the term flat earth. They turned flat earth into one of those terms that immediately people will say, oh, you're another weirdo.
Exactly.
Right? That's why it's important, like I said in the beginning, if you're going to talk about chemtrails, that you talk in terms of geoengineering. If you're going to talk about flat earth, it's important that you talk in terms of geocentrism. Those are recognized terms in the science community that where, you can have a discussion. So, but like you said, if you're going to try to bulldoze people and hit them over the head with a hammer to try to wake them up, that does not work.
Absolutely not. And as Mike says, that if you wanna help and on some level be helpful for this transition who are to be, the best thing you can do is then to work with the community within and try to expand your fellow likes, those who think like you, try to expand their thoughts with your theories and with your thoughts and with your researches, like you do, Mike, for example, with your Paul McCartney and Beatles conspiracy and everything around it. Okay, Mike, thank you very much to put aside time for me. It has been a really thrill to have you, and I don't really know to thank you. I really hope that I can invite you back, it has been a big honor. I need to add that really a big honor, because I have really been a fan of of what you have done, and really what you have done, even though you have done it for yourself and your journey. You have woke so many people up, and your subscribers, and not only on YouTube, but all your channels. So for that, I want to take the occasion and say thank you for all your work and all these years, all the detailed work you have done with Paul. I am really grateful to have found your radio channel and had that information from you, because if you look around on Facebook, first of all, if you search on YouTube, the only thing you will get is what you described in the beginning, a small piece of it, and then that it's a conspiracy, it's not true, it's a lie, and people who believe that should have a tinfoil hat on. First of all, that's that's a lie. You will be deceived. Then you have some work from others, and I feel that I have understood that you guys are a group working together with you leading the group. That's the only good work that you can find on YouTube. So I'm grateful for that, Mike, and grateful for having time for us. It has been an honor to have you, and I hope really that I can invite you back, Mike.
Anytime, Sam. And for the audience, if you're interested in my work, or if you want to know more about the McCartney conspiracy or any of the other topics that I hit on, just go to my hub website. It's sageofquay.com. So sage of Quay, it's Quay.com. So if you go there, that's my hub website. You'll find links to all of my YouTube channels, to all of my podcasts, and some of the other work that I do.
Below the video, you will find all the link to the For YouTube channel and the music channel, which I introduced you with, and also the homepage, and everything will be here below, so you know that.
All right, very good, Sam. I'll come back anytime. It was a great conversation. We covered a lot of ground, and I hope the audience finds it interesting.
I was walking down this dusty